Let's get into the match review now. Obviously, Spurs beat Brighton 2-0 at the Amex yesterday. And I just didn't really think Brighton posed too much of a threat for us. I didn't even think Spurs were that good yesterday. I mean, first half, I wasn't happy with the way Spurs finished that first half. I thought it wasn't that I was unhappy with the way Spurs were playing. It was just that I didn't think we were that good, but we were better than a Brighton side that were pretty poor. But when the second half came, yeah, Brighton put us under a bit of pressure at the start of that second half. But after that, I mean, we just swept them aside, didn't we? We were creating chances at will. After we scored that second goal, Harry Kane was laying it to Reguilon on a plate quite regularly, twice. Reguilon probably should have scored yesterday. Kulusevsky missed a one-on-one. I think that was in the first half, actually. Yeah. But we had so many chances yesterday, and probably 2-0 didn't do justice of how much we actually battered Brighton yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of games now, to be fair, but look, when we got out there, we eventually got the result done. Look, for me, I think Romero, 2 chances yesterday. Look, this has been a common theme with this guy all season, boys. You know, where he's getting in down the left-hand side, and he just doesn't have that composure in the box to shoot or pick out that pass. Should have had 2 goals yesterday. Kulusevsky, look, I'll forgive him for that one-on-one yesterday, to be fair to him. Look, he should have buried it on another day. I think he would have. But look, they put us under a bit of pressure early in the second half, but we dealt with it well. And they asked questions of our defence. You look over the last couple of games, or even since the new year, the amount of goals that we've been conceding. And to be fair, we answered them questions yesterday, kept a clean sheet, which is a huge plus going forward into the bubble lovers at the weekend. And look, it was just great to get one over on the Seagull lovers. Look, a lot of people rate this Harry Potter guy. I don't rate Brighton whatsoever, and what I seen last night, boys, I have to say I was very disappointed with them for the amount of good that people talk about Harry Potter. But look, for me, I'm happy with the win. It's all about just getting the points on the board right now. Performances, look, I know maybe it wasn't the best performance, but right now it's just about getting points on the board and getting back out, and trying to get that top 4 spot and compete till the very end of the season. If we would have lost last night, season would have been over nice and early. So I'm delighted we got the win, boys.
Yeah, things definitely went for us yesterday. I feel like it wasn't even so much as maybe in the second half. In the first half, we didn't even have to create much. We were just relying on Brighton mistakes. You know, Kane tackles Sanchez for the chance to go to, and he misses the open goal. Kulusevsky picks up the loose ball off Duffy and a bad mistake at the back, and he goes through 1-on-1. So it was just about Tottenham pouncing on when Brighton was screwing up at the back, and we ultimately made them pay for a lucky goal. But we didn't have to be our most creative to create yesterday, and that was probably that obviously helped us. But it doesn't mean we've learned much in terms of if we can be creative against teams who sit in a low block. I think Brighton weren't in a low block yesterday. I think they threw caution to the wind. I think they played well in parts in terms of keeping possession, but they didn't really put us under serious pressure. I felt like in the first half they barely had any shots. I think Maupay had 1 shot inside the box when he turned and hit it over the bar. In the second half, Cucurella had a opening on the left-hand side. He flashed a shot wide. That was pretty much it for Brighton. They looked pretty toothless. I think there were a couple of last-minute challenges from Romero and
Davis as well.
Davis. They that could have been worse situations if they didn't get their timing right. But I think Tottenham answered as David said, they answered all the questions that were served of them. And it was a pretty routine victory. I think the second goal was a good piece of quality on the counter. Brilliant pass from Bentancur. Kane runs from goal, and it's a finish which is a lot harder than it looks into the near post, curling it in. So you've got to say that was impressive. But
yeah, it was harder than the shot he missed in the first few minutes. That's
definitely.
For sure.
Much harder. And he slotted that way, and then followed up with a brilliant volley off a Coke bowl.
Beautiful.
Iconic celebration. But I think Brighton. I think Brighton are in terrible form. You can see the lack of confidence they're playing with. I think that's evident.
I was saying to you last night that you can actually see, because I hadn't watched much of Brighton over the last couple of weeks when they've been on this losing run, but you could really see last night why they are on this losing run, because they're not playing well. Confidence seems to be sapped out of them. And, maybe there's a case of, their season being over so long ago, they're just on the beach. They've got nothing to play for, do they? They're not going to be threatened with relegation. They're not going to be going for European football. So they're just in that kind of no man's land at the moment where they've got really nothing to play for.
Yeah, looking at them yesterday, for me, I actually think they were already on holiday, to be honest with you, Ben. Look, they've nothing to play for, like you said. For me, I think they're just making up the numbers between now and the end of the season. And look, I listen to a lot of player podcasts and stuff like that, and they do say when it comes to, 20-odd games and there's nothing really left to play for, they do start thinking about their holidays and stuff like that. And I think that was definitely the case with Brighton yesterday, to be honest with you.
I think as well, they're I think Potter, might be coming under criticism now, but I think he did such a good job early in the season. I think they won 6 of their first 7 games, and then they only lost like 4 in their first half of the season, and I think they were pretty difficult to play against. They were pretty solid, but there's only so long he can get the most out of players like Solly March and players like Shane Duffy and Pascal Gross and these kind of players who are really not like that. I think he overachieved to get them playing so well in the first half of the season. So obviously there may be regressing to the mean at the moment, but I think they're struggling badly. But I wouldn't criticise Potter too much on that, because I think he's doing the best he can to get the best out of the players he's got at his disposal at the moment. How many Brighton players get into a lot of other teams around them? Like
Suma's probably the only one that can do a job at a better team.
Yeah, Morpie could probably maybe be a striker somewhere, but
maybe a sub striker.
He's got 9 goals.
Yeah.
He's got 9. I don't think he's a top half striker, but he could definitely be a bottom half striker somewhere. Like, he's got 9 Premier League goals. That's pretty impressive. Cucurella's probably a decent one on the left, but they don't have the players to sustain those kind of results, I don't feel. And that's just reality that they have to live with. That Brighton are always going to be around mid-table. That's just,
and even
when
they're on the top of their game, they're still not winning many games. They're just drawing a lot of games.
They're just hard to beat.
Yeah,
and they've kind of lost that. Maybe they got a defender.
Lamptey as well. Someone mentioned in the comments.
Yeah, Lamptey. He didn't start yesterday, did he?
Yeah, he came on
shrinking. Yeah, Lamptey. Lamptey is a good player, but he didn't even start yesterday. I think he's had a few injury problems. So I think thankfully we got the job done yesterday. I just think they're going through a tough time at the moment, Brighton. They're going to have these spells. That's just the nature of where they are.
Let's go through our man of the matches. Who was your man of the match yesterday?
For me, look, only because he scored last night, and it's the first time I've been over when he's actually scored in front of me, I am going to go with Harry Kane. I know that's probably biased. Look, special mentions, Bentancur and Højbjerg in midfield. I actually thought they actually had a very good game in midfield in terms of keeping the ball and getting stuck in and turning the ball over. Romero, of course, maybe I mentioned there as well, very good defensively, got his goal last night. What a goal, by the way. Well,
brilliant goal. Took it
goal.
really well, didn't he?
And then he was making sure at the end of the celebrations, he was telling Kulusevsky, that's mine. So, look, it was a good day all around going to the Brighton game, to be honest with you. Look, Kane scores, Romero scored, but for me, I'm picking Harry Kane. I know that's biased, but look, I love the guy.
Harry Kane is definitely in the conversation for man of the match yesterday. I thought he was brilliant yesterday, Harry Kane. But Sim, man of the match?
I think I'm going to go with Bentancur in the end. I think he was brilliant, especially in the second half. I think first half he had a few iffy moments, but second half he really stepped up for us, and I thought he was a touch of class, not just but both on and off the ball. He was providing that steal that we needed. I think Basuma, they had to take him off in the end. He couldn't get a look in. I think Bentancur was over him like a rash, and I think, to be fair, Højbjerg also had a very good game, but I think them two working together was a really positive situation. Also, Bentancur drove forward and played a beautiful pass. Not the first time he's done that for us, and he did it yesterday, providing a really great assist, well-timed and weighted ball to Kane, which obviously we ended up getting the second goal from. And I think he really started to strike stuff later in the game. He was doing fancy flicks, and he was doing some pirouettes, and he was holding players off. He was doing some really great stuff. So his confidence was growing, and that was really good. And it's a good response to his performance at Old Trafford, which had a lot of people questioning things.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Sim. I think there were 4 players in the running for man of the match yesterday. I think it was Harry Kane, Bentancur, and potentially Romero and Dyer, and probably Højbjerg actually had a shout in there as well. So I think those 5 were our really outstanding performers yesterday. And when you're talking about the defence yesterday, and you're talking about Eric Dyer, obviously he had that big challenge early on in the game that he had to get wrapped up, Terry Butcher-esque on the pitch yesterday. But when you talk about Dyer, I mean, he was a man mountain yesterday. Anything that came over the top, he mopped up straight away. Romero on the other side, I mean, he's like taken up this kind of like Rudiger role in the defence, isn't he? He's always joining the attacks. He's always aggressive in the centre. And Ben Davies as well were making really good challenges at the back. So I think all three of them, all our centre-backs yesterday, performed at a really high level.
I tell you though, Ben Davies was annoying me a bit going forward, like especially in the first half. The amount of space that was down that left-hand side, and he was like very a bit tentative in the ball. He was either coming back, cutting inside, and instead of just giving it out wide to Reguilon and getting at them, and that did annoy me in the first half. But to be fair, second half, I actually thought Ben Davies kind of copped on a little bit and started playing the balls out wide down further. But just on the runs that Romero was making, like it's like he's picked up from Ben Davies, because before Romero really got into the team under Conte and came back from injury, Ben Davies was always coming out from that left side, getting forward, creating that extra man in midfield, that extra man going forward. And since Romero's come in, you've seen it over the last few games that Romero seems to be taking up that role a hell of a lot more now, that he does get forward as well, which is good to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's not the first time. Again, like even on the weekend, Romero comes forward and he forces Maguire into mistake. He's part of the move which builds up to the second goal as well. He's really starting to contribute, not with goals and assists, but just being an option in the final third with just a player to lay off to, which he can, which we can then hurt defenders. He's starting to become a bit of a nuisance for opposition defences now, not just opposition attackers, which I'm really excited about. And as I've said, he really helps us play out the back really effectively, and that's really, really positive. I'm really enjoying seeing Romero do that. And people maybe go on him for picking up too many yellow cards and being too rash.
Yellow card for Spurs.
Yeah, and people might say, oh, he's got to, and even Conte said, he's got to be concentrating all facets of the game. But I just think that it's not. I don't think it's him being rash. I just think that's what when you play the way he plays on the edge, you're going to miss a couple. But if you miss 1 in 10 and you're mopping up the other 9, then it's worth it. Then I think it's worth the odd yellow card, or even a yellow, if you get a yellow card often, to win as many tackles and balls that he does, you might miss 1 or 2, but I think it's worth it for the way he plays. It's a bit like how under Pochettino, when Lloris used to sweep up a lot more than he does now. Like he used to be brilliant at it, and he used to miss like 1 in 15 or 1 in 10 or whatever it was. But because of the amount he used to sweep up and used to stop counter-attacks, it was worth it, like giving the odd goal away. It's a bit like Alisson as well. He cocks up 1 in a few. But because he gets so much, it's worth it. And I think the same with Romero.
Yeah.
To be fair though, lads, I actually don't mind that from Romero though, because I'd rather him at least put in them tackles rather than not make the tackle and not take any yellows, because last season, or especially under Jose, the amount of times I've seen players just run at our back line, through the midfield, at our back line, and nobody wants to make a challenge. No one was taking them down. And it's too soft. At least with Romero, though, lads, he will get stuck in. He has that competitive edge. He winds up the opponents. Yeah. I have no problem with taking the book in, because we need that nasty side. We need that edge. We need someone that's willing to get stuck in and take people down and take that yellow card. But not only that, be able to manage it out through the rest of the game. And I absolutely love it. I think Spurs have been missing out from this, especially under Jose Mourinho. I'm delighted we've got him in.
Yeah, and in terms of he's got yellow cards, but he's only got 1 red, hasn't he, against Vitesse? He hasn't been sent off since, so he does tend to calm it down a bit. I
think we'll see at least 1 from now to the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll see, maybe. But I also think him picking up cards, I think psychologically, for the attackers, it's like, oh, this guy doesn't even care about getting a card. I think that can put a bit of fear in them. It's like sometimes when a player an attacker will feel like this guy can't make a challenge because he's scared about getting yellow. He can't do anything. But when you're coming up with a defender who is not scared about getting a card, that's probably in your mind. It's like, he doesn't care about kicking me. You know what I mean? That probably psychologically can make an effect there.
Yeah, sorry Ben, if you're an attacking player going forward though, it does put doubt in your mind, because the next time you'll be a lot quicker to look for an option and pass it off rather than try and get at him or try and skin him, So it does change the opposition's game with how aggressive he is.
Exactly.
Moving on to the fullbacks, Reguilon. Let's talk about Reguilon first, because I thought he was getting in so many good positions. Later on in the game, Harry Kane was feeding him through. Really should have taken at least one of those chances yesterday. But I thought both Reguilon and Doherty were fairly poor yesterday. I don't know what you guys' opinions were.
I wouldn't say they were poor. I think Doherty wasn't getting in the positions that we'd like him to get into, especially in space. So he wasn't able to get many shots off or crosses in. But I think he was pretty solid. I think he allowed Reguilon to be a lot more of an offensive option. And again, Reguilon, I think he was involved in the build-up to the first goal, and obviously got into some great positions in the second half, which he failed to finish. But he keeps getting in there, and that's important. I think it's underrated when a player keeps getting those positions. I think if he can just improve his decision-making and quality in the final third, he can be a very, very effective left wing-back for us. And I think in terms of a player getting in those positions, he's the best player we have at the moment. That's very positive. That's a big element of how Conte wants to play. He just needs someone on that left-hand side getting there all the time. And I think for a player who gets a lot of criticism, I think he can be quite decent going forward, and I think he just needs to improve his quality. But he gets in there no problem, which is very positive, and I think he did that all day long yesterday, especially in a few occasions. So I think he was good from Reggie. I don't think he something to complain about. But Doherty, I think defensively was really solid. Didn't get forward at that much, but maybe he didn't need to.
Look, for Reguilon, for me, look, I know a lot of people have their reservations about the guy, but you have to remember under Nuno, he was our most creative player. He had our most assists as well. And to be fair,
not saying much.
No, it's not. It's not really, considering we couldn't get a shot on target. But look, to be fair to the guy, one thing I've noticed the common theme all season is he breaks down that left. How many times have we seen Harry Kane put him in behind, put them balls in? It's his decision making when he gets into them positions, which I think is mainly his biggest problem. But that's something that you can work on with this guy. You know, you can work on that. That work can be done on the training pitch. Look, defensively, sometimes he can get caught out. Especially last year, my biggest problem was he was jumping in too often, and then players were just cutting inside him the whole time. He seems to have cut that out a lot this year. He is better defensively. Just if we can get better decision making, I think you see a lot more from Reguilon with the amount of times he's been put in. Look, for the Irish Cafu, to be honest with you, look, it's Paddy's Day. I don't really want to go down this road, but look, for me, I know he's played well the last while. I think he's played well since he's come in against Leicester. But you look at Leicester, it was an attacking game. It suited him, you know. You look at the last couple of games as well that we've played, Leeds, Everton. Again, we had all the ball. It was attacking games. It suited him. And then you look at defensively against United, which I actually didn't think he was great defensively. The first ball that was put in over their head, and they knew that because to put one ball over his head straight away, he misread the judge of the flight of the ball. Sancho got in, passed it to Ronaldo, and Ronaldo was looking for a penalty when Dyer blocked the shot. So for me, look, Doherty, I think we just have to kind of manage that right wing back situation until the end of the season. Doherty for the attacking games, and for me, Emerson for the defensive games. But I also think Conte knows that. You look at Man City, he played Doherty because he knew we'd be sitting back, and then for the attacking games, Emerson because he knew we'd be sitting back, and then for the attacking games, he rolls out the Irish Cafu. So for me, I think, look, Doherty, I know a lot of people have been calling him Dohertino lately, same as me, to be honest. But look, for me, I would still look to kind of move this guy on in the summer. He's not getting any younger either, so you can't really improve him defensively.
Yeah, I didn't have too much of an issue with the wing backs.
In terms of the midfield, I thought Bentancur and Højbjerg were absolutely brilliant yesterday. I mean, Højbjerg, since that kind of really poor display against Southampton and then he came out of the team, since he's been back in the team, I think he's been sensational. Yeah. He does a lot of work that goes unnoticed. He lets his midfield partner, which is usually Bentancur now, strut his stuff. I know that didn't happen in the last game against Man United, but it definitely happened in the game yesterday. I thought Højbjerg, he's just there as a shield for the back four. He's aggressive. He's getting the ball, winning the ball back time and time again. And I'm just so happy with Højbjerg's displays at the moment.
We just look so much more solid when him and Bentancur are together in the centre. I don't think we've had one performance where we've looked really open or really at risk. I know maybe you can say maybe Man United, but I think more by and large we had control over that game. I think we've played 6 with them 2 in the centre. 1-4 and lost 2, with the 2 losses being Burnley and United. But I think by and large we've looked a lot more solid with them 2 together, and I think they're starting to create a much better partnership than Højbjerg's had with maybe Winks. Skips obviously have been a big miss, but I'm really liking them 2 together. I think they cover so much ground. They're very, very aggressive. They win the ball back countless amount of times, and it sets us up for good attacking situations, especially when they win the ball in the centre of the midfield, like on the halfway line. And when you're winning the ball that high up, when you've got players like Kane and Kulu and Son to attack, they can be devastating, and that's proving to be a very effective weapon that we have against other teams. The amount of recoveries, ball recoveries and tackles, Højbjerg and Bentancur making together, and Højbjerg starting to dribble a bit as well. He's starting to get on the ball and charge forward, which I'm really liking. I think sometimes, as we've said, when he's partnered with Winks, he can kind of get overrun and be a bit of like a headless chicken. But when he's next to Bentancur, he just seems a lot calmer, a lot more controlled. He seems to know which area he's gonna cover and all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot better situation, I feel. So I'm very happy with them two together and team. We look a lot more functional with them two together.
100%.
Yeah. Just quickly for me, I think he's gone from Pierre-Emile Brickhouse to Piero-Emile Højbjerg. He's been absolutely brilliant on the ball, especially against United. Look, a lot of people were debating, is he really much better than Winks, this, that and the other? To be honest, guys, that's an absolute insult to the guy. Midfield is all about partnerships. What you ideally need in there is someone that's going to be able to break up play, win ball, and just give it off to the players that can play. And then someone in there that can get on the ball and spray passes, just a bit like Bentancur. For me, I've really liked Højbjerg also, most of the season. Look, don't get me wrong, I think he has had some bad games, boys. But all in all, I think, look, you put him in with someone like Winks, he's always going to look bad. Always. Bentancur doesn't look like the same player when he's beside Winks. It's such a drop-off in quality. And for me, I think this guy does an incredible amount of running in midfield. And I actually don't think we respect him enough in this fan base, to be honest with you. I do think we actually need to put a bit of respect on this guy's name. He just breaks up ball all day long in midfield. And look, I get it. It's been a very frustrating season. But believe me, it's been a long season. You know, me personally, I actually can't wait for this season to end. Just get fresh players in the summer. But this guy, all season long, he's been trucking away in the midfield, and I think we just need to, lay off him a little while and let him do his thing in there. Every team needs a player like him. You look at Real Madrid, they have Casemiro. You look at Bayern Munich, they have Goretzka. And the list goes on. Even if you go back to some of the great title-winning teams in England, United, they had Roy Keane in there. Every player needs a person in there like him. Every single team needs
Fernandinho, Liverpool, Fabinho, everyone's got one. But on Bentancur, I mean, that second half, he really did step up, as my brother mentioned before. I mean, he was getting the ball in the middle of the park. He was shrugging away from challenges. He was using his quick feet to get away from challenges as well. I mean, he was pretty much, they couldn't get the ball off him last night at times. And the way he was driving from the midfield through the attack and starting attacks, and what better example than that last goal, the Harry Kane's goal. The way he drove forward and that ball he played into Harry Kane was absolutely pinpoint. And Harry Kane does what Harry Kane does. So for me, Bentancur was absolutely brilliant, especially in that second half yesterday. And those front three, Harry Kane, obviously brilliant performance yesterday. But what is going on with Sonny? I mean, we keep bringing it up after every game at the moment. But again, I thought it was not such a great display from him again yesterday.
Look, with Sonny, I think he's just going through a bad spell of form. I'm not reading too much into it personally. Look, for me, he was playing out on right wing. He's now playing inside more or less in like a number 10. There's a lot more pressure on him in them positions. There's a lot more. He doesn't have as much time as he would out wide. Even the runs that he makes, they're completely different. Before, he was able to come in and bend his run. Now it's more or less a straight run in behind. So his whole game has completely changed this season since Conte has come in. I do think we need to just play him through his form, similar to what we've done with Harry Kane. I don't think you can drop him. Look, I just think it's a bit of bad form, and that's all it is with Sonny, to be honest. Look, wasn't the best yesterday. Didn't really get involved too much. But for me, I think you just got to play a player like that through his form. Because I think if you drop him, I think it gets worse. I think it plays on his mind. He starts thinking about it more. So for me, you just got to stick with this guy. He's been a super servant to Tottenham.
Yeah, again, it wasn't a great performance from Son. I'll give you that. But again, he was involved in the first goal, which he lays the ball off for Kulusevsky, which obviously got a bit of luck. But he was involved in that piece of play. I think when you talk about Son's new position, I've been fairly not critical, but I've said like maybe it doesn't get the best out of him. But what I've seen like in the past like few weeks, it's like a bit of give and take with that position. I think when teams sit deep, he's much better when he's a bit further out wide, when he can isolate fullbacks and get to the byline, whipping crosses or cut inside. But when teams are pressing high and there's space for him, I actually think you can see a lot of benefits from him in this position because, as you say, he might not have to run from out to in, but if he can run in a straight line, he's all of a sudden central, and that's where he's most dangerous when he's literally on the run looking to finish a one-on-one or something like that in behind. And if he's more central than he is out wide on the left, he's a lot more dangerous. I feel if he's running in that straight line in behind. So those are the positives of having him in that position. The problem is when he's got more players around him, when he's got more defenders to deal with, when he has to hold players off and use his strength and maybe be a bit nimble in tight situations and squeeze through a few players and passing and moving in tight situations, that's not really his forte. He likes a lot more space. He likes to use his speed. So that's where drawbacks come from this position. I still think he's still getting used to it, and he's still and I think at the moment he's not having the best of times with it. But we saw against the likes of Everton and against the likes of City, he can play in this position to a fairly high level when it suits him. When there's space for him to play, you can get the benefits of it. So it wasn't a great display, but I wouldn't look to drop or anything just yet.
We also have to remember, though, this is a guy that's been involved in 11 goals in his last 14 games. Even though he's not really playing the best, he's still contributing, and that's all you can ask for at the end of the day.
That's exactly.
Absolutely spot on. And last but not least, Kulusevsky, who I thought had another strong game yesterday. Obviously, we thought he scored the first goal, but it got a little nick off Romero. But, he was causing Brighton problems all night long with his quick feet, always looking to create chances. This guy, he's really slotted in like a glove, hasn't he?
Look, absolutely brilliant. Gimme a ginger from Sweden. Come on, no, I was absolutely buzzing. Look, for me, I just like what he does when he gets on the ball. It's like, okay, maybe he's not the quickest, but his brain is working quicker than everything else. It slows all the play down, great passing. It's his strength as well, his ball carrying ability, I think is absolutely...
Ready made for this league, isn't he?
He's ready made for it. You look at the stature, look, I think when you look at him, I think he's very, very similar to Harry Kane. I think body-wise, in terms of pace. And I think, look, if we can't keep Harry Kane for another year, it's brilliant. But if we don't, I actually see this guy moving up into the striker position.
Really?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he's... Look, you look at the way he holds up the ball. If you go back to the City game, the way he uses his body, like Harry Kane, gets in front of the player, puts his arms out wide, tries to hold him off to take down the ball. His passing ability, we've seen it already on display. He can play people through. He's got, 2-3 assists already this season since he's come, So, and for me, he's got a couple of goals. And I just think next season you're going to see this guy completely flourish. I think the deal we got him in was absolutely brilliant because it means the onus was on him to come to Tottenham to perform because he was falling off the boil a bit at Juve and you weren't really sure kind of what player you were going to get. But the onus was on him to come here and perform, and he's absolutely done that. For me, you sign him up on a permanent basis. I think he's been brilliant since he's got here. And I do think if Harry Kane, look, we don't know what the situation is in the summer, but I think this guy is very similar. Maybe might not get you the same amount of goals because Harry Kane has perfected his craft over the last so many years. But this guy can slot up there for sure, I think.
And he's deceptive as well. People say he's slow, but he can beat a player because dribbling isn't just about speed. It's also about catching people off balance, driving into space, making the defender uncomfortable. And he can definitely do that with the strength and his quick feet and a bit of trickery. And how many times he nutmegs players and just you think, the defender's got him, and then he cuts inside or he goes on the outside and he just gets around them. He's definitely a deceptive player in that sense. And I think maybe defenders. He can catch them by surprise a lot with his ability to beat a player. And I think the main asset yesterday that he used was his strength, holding off the Brighton defenders, winning duels in and around the in the Brighton half. And obviously he was putting Duffy under pressure, which got the one-on-one which he missed. And it was another very encouraging performance for him. And he's really contributed. I think in 6 starts, I think it's 2 goals, 4 assists. So. Can't ask much more than that for a new signing, 21-year-old signing.
Absolutely. And now, 9 games to go left of the season now. 10 games to go. We got Arsenal 3 points above us now with a game played. They've played a game less. How do you guys rate our chances for top four now? Back in the conversation, obviously, with the Arsenal loss and gaining 3 points on them yesterday. For me, I would say it's an outside chance, but I want to just see our team stay in there until kind of late April time, when Arsenal and Man United both have a very hard run in that time. And if we can stay in there within a 3-point gap or within touching distance up until that time, I think there will be opportunities for us. I really believe that.
Yeah, go on.
No, go on.
No, I'm saying there will be opportunities, no doubt about it. There will 100% be opportunities. The fixtures that Man United and Arsenal have left, we have definitely a more favourable running than them two, especially with West Ham to come on the weekend. Once we get that game out of the way, we literally, I think, only Liverpool and Arsenal to play left in the final stretch. And whereas Arsenal have United, they still got West Ham away, which is going to be a tough game. They've got Chelsea. They got Chelsea as well. They've still got very tough away games like Villa and Palace as well. Palace just took points off.
That's their next 2 games as well.
I think Palace just took points off City, so that's not going to be an easy game. Palace nearly beat them at the Emirates as well, so that's not going to be an easy game. Man United still have to play Liverpool, I think, as well. As much as we do, they still got Arsenal. They've got some tough games. So it's all about us. If we can get our job done, the points will be dropped. I'm 100% sure of that. The chances will be there to capitalise. We just got to concentrate on ourselves. Make sure we're at top of our game every single time. We now got 1 game a week. We've got no excuses but to put in an absolute shift every time we get on the pitch. We've got to be our absolute best. And with the fixtures we got coming up, there's no reason we can't go on a little run. But we just got to make sure that we focus on ourselves, because the points will be dropped by the other teams. I'm certain of that.
Do you know what? I completely agree with that. I think we've got to just focus on ourselves. Other results, I think, will pan out the way we want them to, but it's up to us now to be able to find this consistency and get a nice little run going. I think we've got favourable fixtures. Now, don't get me wrong. I think I've learned a good lesson this season that not every fixture in the Premier League is as straightforward or easy. But look, we've got more winnable games than what I would say Arsenal and United do. But for me, I think it hinges on this West Ham game. I really do. I think we beat them. I think we can definitely go on a nice little run, get a bit of a break over the international break, hopefully some players, and then go on a little run and take it from there. But for me, look, it is an outside chance. But I've always believed, you know me, I'm always a believer. I've been saying it all season. I got absolutely pelters after the United game. How can you be talking about top 4? It's over. Well, everybody's talking about it now, and I think this West Ham game decides it for me. I think we beat them. I think we can definitely do it. I think if we lose, I think it's going to be very, very hard to pick ourselves back up and get the points necessary to get top 4. So for me, I think it all hinges on this weekend with the bubble blowers.
All right, so that is our match review from the 2-0 win yesterday at the Amex.